HQN Books and Harper Audio present The Road to Rose Bend by Naima Simone, featuring the bonus story Slow Dance at Rose Bend by Naima Simone, performed by Mari. Chapter 1. There's no place like home. Huh? Obviously, Dorothy hadn't gotten out much. Sydney Collins stared at the majestic Monument Mountain and Mount Everett, the breathtaking sentinels that soared above the picturesque town of Rose Bend, Massachusetts. Dorothy's bewildering need to return to boring, sepia-toned Kansas couldn't be found among the trees that covered their peaks, though. Sydney could still remember sitting in the living room and watching The Wizard of Oz for the first time when she'd been 7 years old. While her parents and her sister Carlin had been rooting for Dorothy to click those ruby heels and make it back home, Sydney had jumped to her feet and yelled, "Are you crazy, Dorothy? Keep your ass in Oz!" Well, her parents hadn't been too happy with the language. They'd later had words with Uncle Travis about watching his mouth around her, but Carlin, resting in her special recliner, had quietly snickered. Carlin. A dusty, too familiar feeling weaved through Sydney, burrowing deep in her heart. From experience, she knew no amount of meditation, come to Jesus talks, or Sunday sermons explaining how God moves in mysterious ways could dig it out. Sydney's fingers curved around her slightly rounded belly, the mound and life within keeping her grounded here, in the present. God. She hadn't been back home for 15 minutes, and already the memories were smothering her, seeking to drag her back. Well, the past wasn't exactly dragging her back. As of yesterday morning, when she'd left Charlotte, North Carolina, to start the 12-hour drive to the Berkshires, she'd willingly returned to her hometown, located in the southern Berkshires. The hometown she'd vowed, 8 years earlier, to never step foot in again. Had it been only about her, she still might be settled in her Ballantine condo. But it was no longer only about her. Sydney splayed her fingers wider over her stomach. 17 weeks. Her doctor had confirmed the day before yesterday. Love, so deep, so fierce, it was terrifying, welled up inside her, as it did every time she thought of the tiny, vulnerable person growing inside her. Love and fear. Oh God, Sydney was scared. Not only for herself, but for the life she would soon be responsible for. On her own. Yes, it was her choice to raise her child as a single mother, just as it had been her choice to divorce her ex-husband, Daniel. But those decisions didn't make the future any less daunting. They didn't mean she wasn't questioning if she was doing the right thing. Shaking her head, as if the abrupt motion could dislodge her doubts, she inhaled a deep breath, released it. "I'm doing this," she said to the mountains. To no one. "I'm really doing this." Was she reminding herself, or questioning her sanity? Yeah, she had no clue. But with her apartment lease canceled, all her belongings either packed away in storage or piled inside this vehicle, with her ties cut, she had no choice but to go forward. Literally and figuratively. She closed her eyes and tipped her head back. Up here, the air didn't contain the mugginess of the South. Though she'd lived almost a decade in Charlotte, North Carolina, she'd never quite become accustomed to the humidity that clung to her skin like a layer of clothing. Here, though, summer had truly arrived. A high 70s temperature with a fresh breeze that brushed over her skin like a loving caress. The southern Berkshires in mid-June were simply breathtaking. As much as she resented the place where she'd grown up, she couldn't deny the beauty of it. Centuries-old trees seemed to preen with their vividly green, lush leaves. Wide fields rolled into hills that were only eclipsed by the majesty of mountains and endless blue sky. As a child, she'd stared up at those great sentinels, imagined
Sample complete. Ready to continue?